It's really unbelievable. And there's a guy out there, I don't know if you've ever seen his stuff. He uses a lot of NLP in his programs, Darren Brown, and he really does show visually how fragile the human mind is and how suggestible it is. And, you know, what you're able to do to people within moments if you know how to talk to them and speak to them and make hand motions and really just misdirect them.
Yes, what it is very simple. I mean, Brown showed it with just paper cutouts for money. And he goes into a shop and he pays the guy off with these blank white papers because your mind is in a sort of double whammy. It knows what it expects to see. He expects to see you carrying out banknotes, and his mind wants to perceive that as banknotes. Part of his mind says is blank. And so rather than go with his own perceptions, he will take his own conditioning and go with that. That's as simple as that. That's why it works.
Yeah, it is incredible. And in another example, he's at a dog track with losing tickets, and he literally walks up with the losing tickets, hammers on the little section, talks to the person, tells them it's a winning ticket, and they get paid out. I mean, it's amazing.
That's how Rothschild took over the Bank of England, yeah.
Something similar, yes. All right, we're loaded with callers for you, Alan. Let's go to Jake in Minnesota. Jake, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Thanks a lot, Alan. I really like your perspective on this. And, you know, we're going through all this information. I think everybody's kind of like trying to figure out what this, the end game or whatever to the whole thing is. And, you know, it's obvious that it's pretty dang planned out, you know, through their system. So, like, what is, you know, going with Einstein's words, you can't solve a problem using the same thinking used to cause the problem. You know, what thinking do we start using to go past it? Is just going straight pro-Constitution? You know, something, and I know it has to be something positive. You can't try and just break down their little things, but, you know, what do we go forward with from here, do you think, Alan?
Well, I don't see, to be honest with you, I do not see protests doing anything except helping those at the top, because the top protesters are NGOs paid for by the big foundations owned by the bankers themselves. So the very things they're protesting are the answers that the bankers want the public to believe and accept, unfortunately. The system has, you've got to understand, it's been ruled for such a long, long time by the Council on Foreign Relations as the managing group for this, mainly in America and other countries. And they are just the American branch of the Royal Institute for International Affairs in Britain. And every Commonwealth country across the planet has one. India has one. Pakistan has a CFR. We've never had democracy or a republic. Actually, the republic was stolen a long time ago. And Carl Quigley, who was the historian, remember, for the CFR, said in the 1960s in his own book, Tragedy and Hope, that the group, the CFR, had hijacked America 60 years before that. That's how far back they've been in control. The bankers with their managerial group, the CFR, beneath them, running the system. They're not going to give up their plans because of persuasion. It will not happen.
All right, Jake, thank you for the call.
It's going to come to terrible situation. They'll either win and get what they want, or there'll be a hell of a mess in the streets. That's what I see coming down.
All right, let's go to Tim in Oklahoma. Tim, what's on your mind?
Yes, Jason. This is Tim from the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. I'm an attorney. I am very glad you took my call today. I've been trying to get a hold of Alex or yourself for a couple of weeks. I've done a little research, and it seems to me like Oklahoma has a state constitutional provision that prohibits the federalization of any state employee. I've checked the Texas Constitution. It seems to be pretty much equal to the Oklahoma state constitution, and Missouri as well has a similar constitution.
Well, I would just say this, though. The only problem is that the feds aren't going to recognize that. It's just like, you know, marijuana being decriminalized in California and them saying that the feds can't come in and bust them. The feds do it anyway. and they just say, we don't care. We're the federal government. We're going to do it anyway. I mean, there's a movie out there called Super Jaime that really documents this fact. I mean, you can have all the statewide legislation you want, and I agree that it's a good thing to have these sorts of things, and I think that the sovereignty movement is a good movement. It shows that the people are not happy with what's going on. But I'll guarantee that the federal government is not going to go by those rules and regulations. Wouldn't you agree, Alan?
Absolutely, absolutely. In a CFR, and you can always count on the CFR's own publications, they said years ago that they would simply do an end run around the Constitution to get what they wanted, and they've been doing that ever since. But what they're also using, this is their excuse too, they're using what they call common law. Now, common law, according to them and their definition, is what the public eventually accept over a period of time, that then becomes law. In other words, we acquiesce to our own imprisonment with every law that's passed, and we say nothing. Therefore, it goes into the legal system then as legal law.
Well, I would agree with you, gentlemen,
we know what they're doing.
I would add this, that under the state laws, the federal government cannot prohibit a state district court judge from convening a grand jury or from the people petitioning for a grand jury and for obtaining state law indictments, and for the state of Oklahoma or other states such as Oklahoma who have criminal statutes, or in Oklahoma you can find that under Title 21, Section 12.
Tim, all I'm saying is look at the track record. Well, just look at the track record of the federal government for the state.
Can't prohibit a state law prosecution.
Not legally, but this is a criminal government, and I thank you for the call. You look at the track record when the feds go up against the state government, and the Fed comes out winning 95 to 99% of the time, and that's just the way it is. That's reality. I mean, I'm glad we put these state provisions in. I'm glad there's still state rights. I'm glad that we can make our own laws. I mean, that's what our Congress is supposed to be there. We're their constituents. They're supposed to be our servants. It's anything but that right now. But at the same time, the feds do what they want. They rarely cow down to local government, and I just don't see it happening. All right, let's jump to the next caller. Let's go to Mark in Oregon. Mark, what's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, Jason and Alan. Jason, you mentioned something at the beginning of the show, got my curiosity up, so if you don't mind, in passing to my main reason for calling, my question for calling, I'd like to ask Alan exactly what type of music he was into professionally. Was it classical or rock and roll or country and folk? I know the English do them all.
Yeah, I did it all, in fact, and sometimes I was asked to get groups together for live stage musicals. And I'd play with them for a while, and then I'd go off and do my own thing solo, either a sort of folk type or classical in theaters across the world. Yeah.
Did you play various instruments, or did you specialize mainly in one instrument, Alan?
I played a few instruments.
Yes. Well, I figured.
I really do like the guitar as well. Yeah.
What was the most enjoyable act and gig that you ever did, Alan?
Playing with Chicago and Eagles and some other ones. At the time I came up from Britain, I filled in, and tours, I'd get calls to if I could just stand in for someone that was sick or whatever, guitarists mainly.
Oh, that's great.
With them, and I didn't even know who they were at the time.
That's fantastic. You played electric and acoustical professionally, obviously.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, Alan, I wanted to ask you, in light of what Alex went over on his show earlier today, and the first part of it as well is toward the end of the show with a gentleman named Shepard, and I'm missing his last name right now, but he was basically a formal guest on the show, and he and a few friends have actually posted video on INFOWARRIOR.com of these very large, roughly 800 by 1,000 feet and 8 to 10 feet deep with rocks in the bottom of them for drainage, being built right next to Department of Veteran Affairs cemeteries in this country. Nobody, including Alex, has really come out and said what these might exactly be for yet. I don't think Alex likes to jump to conclusions on things which could scare people unnecessarily, but I didn't know if you had heard about this development, Alan. There has been publicity about the blue coffin liners being stockpiled around Chicago and maybe a few other places in recent months, but this is the first that's come out that I've heard, and I listen pretty closely, listening to Alex and Jason and such as this, of actual mass graves, what are apparently, obviously, what else could they be, mass graves being dug here. Do you have any view on this at this point? Does this fit in with any other part
I'll tell you, I don't know about this story in particular for the U.S., but I have gone over the British ones for supposed plagues and pandemics and gone through it pretty meticulously. And they do talk about creating mass graves and how they'd have to really build them, some of them in advance, and fill them up quickly, etc., how many they'll hold, all of that kind of stuff, and where they would be, in fact, away from drainage facilities and all that kind of thing. So these things have been discussed, I know, in other countries across Europe, so I don't see why they haven't started the same thing in the U.S.
All right, Mark, I thank you for the call, my friend. We got to jump to the next caller. Let's go to Daria in California. Daria, what's on your mind?
Jason.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for your show, and thank you for having Alan Watt on.
Thank you.
Real quick, I want to mention that for those who want to go to whole other level of understanding this whole New World Order agenda, Alan Watt is the source, and he has hundreds of hours of lectures for free, and his books are invaluable. And